When I meet foreign people, they say, "Oh, you're the only English person I've ever understood in my life." But you're right.
When
Yeah.
the student is actually taking the test, they should trust their instincts. If they feel that they got it right, and they think they found it right away, go for it.
You are now listening to the IELTS podcast.
Hello there, podcast listeners. Today I have got Michael Marzio, and he's a leading ESL producer on YouTube. He's got hundreds of videos, very interesting. And his way of teaching is using really interesting videos to help you get immersed into the language. And he's quite a success on YouTube. So could you tell us a bit about yourself, Michael? About your YouTube videos, about your websites, about your career?
Yes, I'd be happy to make my brief introduction.
Okay.
You mentioned the YouTube videos right off the bat, which are certainly very important, but they're only important because they are in a context on the Real English site, which is completely interactive, so that the student, after watching a typical video and a typical lesson, which will last maybe 3 minutes or 4 minutes, that video is then broken down into very small parts, and there are interactive exercises for like even just 3 seconds of video, or more often 6, 7, 8, 10 seconds of video. And each exercise includes both pictures, the video itself, audio files, in order to make what the people are saying clear. Because this is real English, with people speaking spontaneously. It goes beyond what we call authentic. There are no actors here. The people are just being themselves. And being themselves means that they're going to appear to be speaking quite fast to most English learners.
I see.
And the extreme amount of helper files, as I call them, the additional audio files and the pictures, help the students to understand what is being said. And the entire site is organized in a very classic way, like most of the existing materials from the big publishers, beginning with banalities such as "What's your name?" and greetings, and going all the way to the most advanced structures. So the level of difficulty in Real English is classic in the sense that we go from the most simple to the most complex functions, lexical items, and grammar, from the simplest of those 3 items to the most complex, but also by the fact that the level of difficulty is often defined by the nature of the person speaking.
Yeah, I see. I was just thinking this would be like really good practice for a student who's preparing for an exam, because a lot of the time a student will have like a high level of English, but understanding real spoken English, and especially if it's from the examiner who has an accent that they're not familiar with, then this would be a really good way of gaining those skills to understand. As you said, it's not just authentic, it's the next level up. It's like real native speakers who are completely speaking naturally, which, I mean, the examiner does adjust a little bit, but still, if you can understand the native speaker, then understanding the examiner is going to be much easier. Sorry, did you have anything else to say about that before I interrupted you? Sorry about that. Just
a very short story. I created a language school in the south of France way back in '76. Our students are all professional people, businessmen, engineers, secretaries, etc. They would, the businessmen especially, and the engineers and the technicians, they would go to the States or to London or other parts of Great Britain, and they would say, we had no problem at all when we talked about our work. But as soon as we had to talk about the weather around the dinner table, it really got hard.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't I just go out in the street and interview people speaking spontaneously and try to include that problem of spontaneity? Because they would say, the students would also say, the people we met, they didn't, they didn't speak like you, as they're
Yeah.
speaking to the teacher now. They didn't speak like you. They were really hard to understand. As teachers, 90% of them have a what I think is a bad habit of teaching of talking like teachers.
Yeah, this happens to me when I meet foreign people. They say, "Oh, you're the only English person I've ever understood in my life." But you're right. Yeah, we do have a bad habit of slowing down and opening up. It's yeah, it doesn't. On one hand, it helps, but on the other hand, it is a bit of a hindrance.
In fact, you have to balance the two, I think, and that's why bringing the video into the classroom is a real shocker for them. And then the teacher can proudly help the students speaking more slowly than the people they're studying, because at least they're getting authentic input.
Absolutely, I think it's a genius idea. And I was just thinking it would probably help for the listening as well for students who it would be a good sort of like segue into practicing for the listening because at least with the videos, although the audio is higher level, you do have the video clues helping out. Whereas in the listening exam, it's just the audio, so it'll be a good step towards improving the listening abilities as well.
Yeah, it's incredible what video can do to help understanding. It eliminates so much explanation or the feeling that you have to explain things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we've covered the next question, which was like how does your approach to teaching help students? I think
Yeah.
we've covered that, unless you've got anything you'd like to mention
No,
specifically.
that's that.
The next question was, how should a student use your site to get like maximum benefit from everything that's there? Because there's huge amounts of content.
I've been filming and making lessons since '94, so I do have an extensive library. And actually, there are quite a few students who finished the whole thing, which,
No way.
which always surprises me when a student says, "What's next, Mike?"
How
In any
many,
case,
sorry, I was going to say, how many videos are there on there?
there are about 160 videos at the present time, but when they get all broken up, it seems to be a lot more. It's pretty simple. I always suggest that a student not spend more than a half an hour, but to use it every day. It's a banality, but it's an important one. Studying for 3 hours once a week is so inferior to studying regularly for a shorter amount of time each time.
That's good
Uh,
advice.
and also simply to follow the instructions. I insist, I'm sure that only half of the students follow my instructions, maybe not even that many. I always insist that they watch the video without the subtitles first and then do the exercises because the exercises will help them understand without reading. And I think it's really important that students train their ears first and foremost before reading anything. And I give them all kinds of hints in the exercises to help them understand what they're listening to. So I try to really emphasize the importance of extensive and intensive listening comprehension, first of all. So the site is organized that way to get the maximum benefit from the videos. Other than that, just a matter of following the instructions. And I'm in the midst right now of eliminating written instructions, and I'm making very short videos showing simply how the exercise works so that I don't have this silly paradox of using language and instructions, which is more complicated than the level of the lesson itself.
I see. And you said that 30 minutes every day is much more powerful than doing 3 hours in one block every week. And I do exactly the same when I'm studying. I do maybe an hour, 45 minutes a day. And I think it's a great method. But could you just explain why this is so much more powerful than doing 3 hours or 4 hours in one Sunday afternoon, for example?
I don't know. I've never studied it technically in detail. It's just it kind of always seemed obvious to me that working every day is better for making your memory work over time. Other than that, I have no technical or
It's just
I
from
have no research to back up my claim here.
yeah. Well, it's interesting for you. Well, with your experience in teaching, doing the sites, it seemed like obvious, but there's an app for the iPhone, for the Android, for Android as well, and it's called Lift. It's called Lift, and what you do is every morning, and because the idea behind it is there's a book and it's called The Art of Learning, and lots of researchers have studied it. But the idea is that to get good at something, you have to, it's not just motivation, but you have to develop the habit. Then once you have the habit, it's much easier to keep going. And plus, small installments are just easier for the brain, and repetition, that's it. And with 45 minutes every day, it's more repetition, so it's just like compounding. But what I would recommend the students to do is get that app Lift, and you can create your own check-in, and you can just click it every time you do it each morning, and you go towards creating like a positive self-reinforcing habit, which I think would be fantastic if to apply for studying English and using your site or preparing for the IELTS. Yeah, I think that's more or less the reason why it's good just to do smaller amounts. In your school, you said you had a library academy. Could you tell me what a library academy is? I haven't heard of that before.
No, I was using library in terms of the library of video.
I see.
That exists.
Okay then.
I was sure that between my American accent and your British accent, that we would certainly have at least one problem like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of differences.
I don't even know where you're. I'm not accent conscious. I don't even know exactly where your accent is from.
No, I'm not that good with the American accents. I can more or less say the region, north or south, but only if it's like clean as day, Forrest Gump, obvious, you know. But otherwise, it's quite tricky. I mean, in Britain, I can usually pinpoint it relatively quickly, but my accent's been mangled a bit. You know, it's because I went to Australia, started opening up how I spoke. Then I started teaching English. But originally, it's from Yorkshire.
Okay.
Yeah, just over the border from Manchester, Lancashire. But there's a slight difference between the Lancashire accent and the Yorkshire one. But yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard Sam Allardyce is a football coach. But a common saying in Yorkshire, and it would really bring out my Yorkshire accent, is hear note, see note, do note, buy note. If you want out doing, do it for the sen. And that just means, sorry?
I think I actually heard that because I spent 3 days interviewing in Manchester, and I think.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, yeah. Where's your accent from, Mike?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. I'm not gonna.
Yes.
I was gonna say Jersey Shore, but I guess you get that all the time. So, what is there a difference between the New Jersey accent and the New York accent?
Not much.
No, it's
Not
pretty
much.
similar, yeah.
I was actually born in New York City, and I've also lived in New York City, so it's a combination of the both.
I see.
In any case.
Yeah. When you go back to the States, when you go back to New York, I mean, do your friends say that your accent's changed since living out in France for quite a while?
No, not at all. It's just the French who make fun of my American accent.
Well, that sounds unlike the French to make fun of people. What did they do?
Well, for friends who make fun, and
Yeah.
others who simply make a remark. Oh, you have a lovely American accent.
Yeah, well, a lot of my students, they used to pick me up and they'd say, especially the young ones, and I used to teach the young ones, they'd say, Ben, is it bus or bass? Because like one teacher from the south would teach them bass, and then I would be saying, yeah, it's a big red bus, and they'd be like getting confused, and I'd be like, I have to give them a full explanation. Just another thing, Mike. So you've been teaching in France for quite a while. Could you just quickly tell us what's the difference between like a really sort of like successful student who cuts it, who picks things up, and the difference of like a student who just who's not as quick with the learning? Would you say there's any key factors involved?
Well, I hate to say this, but it could be demotivating, but some people, and for very different reasons, are simply more talented in picking up languages than other people. Partially based on genes, partially based on where you come from in the world. If you're a Slavic origin, you're going to be able to learn much more easily than if you're from the Mediterranean, simply because your ears are capable of understanding much more frequencies than the people of the Mediterranean. And then there's the simple fact that there's the unexplicable ability to just like certain babies learn their native language faster than others.
Mm-hmm.
Something inexplicable there that has something to do about our genes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it makes perfect sense. I mean, some people can play football pretty well, and others are like donkeys, like myself. I mean, practice will make a difference, but I totally agree. Some people pick it up a lot easier, and others really have to battle with it. Yeah, totally
But
agree.
the importance of developing good habits should never be ignored, even if one is at a bad starting, a so-called bad starting point in that sense. Because learning how to learn is much more important than all of the limitations that one is born with. You can get over all of them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just nodding my head when he was telling us. Yeah, learning how to learn is a critical skill to have, and it's so valuable. The guy who wrote the book, The Art of Learning, I'm going to put a link in it in the blog post, but he went from chess master to Tai Chi master. I can't remember his name, but he says his ability to be world champion in both disciplines, even though they appear completely diametrically opposed, he said that the ability to become good was because he studied how to learn, and one of the things he said was to break it down into its smallest components and attack each one, which is one of the reasons why I thought your videos were so awesome, because that's exactly what they do. They just take this conversation, dissect it into the smallest parts, and gives an explanation. And I think it's, yeah, just a fantastic way of teaching the English language. So credit to you, Michael.
Well, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
did a lot of work and thinking on that. In fact,
Uh-huh. Awesome. Right then. Okay, just the last question was what's the best advice you could give to a student having a hard time with exams?
yeah, this is interesting. I'm able to answer this question only because our students, like I mentioned before, they're professional people. So the exam that they prefer and usually ask for is the TOEIC. I'm sure that the problems are similar for both tests. On the other hand, the TOEIC is for more for internal job promotion and that sort of thing. In any case, your question involves both test specific and also very general learning principles.
Yes.
But in any case, the important points include just setting a goal. Is the goal of the test taking to find a job? If so, then find out what proficiency level is required. The students should be using free sites like my own, but hundreds of others also, of course, whatever they prefer.
Yeah.
And in any case, test or no test, everyone has to build a strong vocabulary. but not by studying vocabulary lists. Uh, Students only can remember words that they have seen in context, either in videos that actually show meaning, or in books which give context to what is being was being said.
Mm-hmm.
Mass media is good too, like the news
Yeah.
or popular songs. If students like a popular song, learning the words to it and singing it, that's great. And reading aloud is really a good idea too for pedagogical reasons that are pretty obvious.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Students should never cram, of course. It's another important point. They should get ready well ahead of time and set up a schedule and keep to it. Um, these are very obvious things, but I'm just mentioning them because, to tell you the truth, right now I'm looking at my own list for my TOEIC students because they've often asked me this question, so I made up my own list. I always point out to them that they can take the test as often as they want if they don't mind paying the fee, which isn't outrageous. So they should never hesitate in taking the test, even if they're not sure if they're ready. This is the best way to prepare. There's no better way to prepare to get a good score the next time.
I mean, the TOEIC, I don't know how much it costs, but the IELTS, I would definitely agree, but I'd suggest doing the practice tests, which you can find online or you can do online, um, because yeah, the IELTS is like $300 Australian dollars last time I checked, so that's pretty pricey.
Just a couple of other points there I think are important. Using model or practice tests is a great idea too, of course. And it replaces the need to taking the test unnecessarily, because they usually are very, at least as far as the TOEIC is concerned, the real tests are very similar to the available model or practice tests.
Yeah.
Um, and if the person is lucky to have the money, he should not only teach himself using all the resources online, but he should also take a specific preparation class with a teacher for the test in question.
Yeah.
And students should get out of the habit of using bilingual dictionaries, and you don't remember words if they don't take some effort to understand.
Yeah, that's so true. I have a Brazilian friend. He was looking for the definition of one word, but he told me that he'd completely removed like the translation, and he just installed like a Cambridge dictionary or Merriam-Webster, like the app, just completely installed it, and he's got the definition. And by doing that, you get when you're looking for a certain word, you're going to find about two or three more, and it sets you on like a Alice in Wonderland journey, just going through and just checking what this one, and especially if you copy pasting them and put them in your vocabulary like diary or your own vocabulary dictionary, then
I'm almost finished. I just want to mention that
yeah,
when the student is actually taking the test, they should trust their instincts. If they feel that they got it they got it right, and they think they found it right away, go for it, and don't dilly-dally. Guessing is a last resort, obviously.
yeah.
And they should also be aware of the time management for each section, and not to spend time on a lot of time on the sections that they enjoy doing.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay then, right. Well, thank you very much, Mike. Could you just tell the listeners the full URLs where they should go to find all your videos and all the worksheets and all the exercises?
Real-English.com.
Real-English.com.
And then
Excellent.
the student will immediately see large links to the lessons, and also a large link to the mobile site, because I have two separate sites, because I was not able to make my traditional site compatible with mobile devices, so I now have two sites.
I see.
And these links are very prominent, and once they get to that homepage, they just have to choose one or the other to get started working.
Awesome. Well, fantastic, fantastic. I'll put up links on the blog post to those sites, and yeah, hopefully, uh, yeah, you'll keep on producing videos. I'm pretty certain you will. And
Yeah.
well, thank you for coming on the podcast, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks a lot to you. I really appreciate the opportunity to become known in your circles a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So thanks a million, Ben.
Hello, thanks for listening to the whole episode. And if you haven't already, I'd strongly recommend you sign up. Go to IELTSPodcast.com, leave your email. You'll get loads of PDFs. You'll get access to the €1 essay check, and it's definitely a worthwhile thing to do with your day. Okay? All right, take care.